A favorite of mine is systems thinking.
Yes.
And so there, if you go back to the good old classics, the Fifth Discipline of Senge or Theory U of Otto Scharmer. So, I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff out there that I
don't know how much time we have to go into it in full blown, but you in your Dubai session, this which was very well visited with, what do you have, over like 100 people attending?
I don't know. I think they were like 65.
Something like that, yeah. You talked about system. What was the actual title of it?
Systems thinking. The title was something cool with systems thinking in it.
Now, I know something about it. I wouldn't claim to be an expert. I use it in my explaining of things, but my experience with system thinking is it's a brilliant concept, but I don't know if it's the wording. Maybe we need to have some marketing person work over the wording. I think a lot of people have no idea what the hell system thinking is, but I think it's still relevant for organizational development and also for the AI thought. You want to give us maybe a quick overview. What is system thinking? What's the difference between systemic, which I think is the word that most people don't understand, and systematic, because there's a big difference between the two.
They have nothing to do with each other.
Okay, yeah.
So if I'm systematic, it means I have my processes, I know what I do. I have a systematic
you have infrastructure, you have hardware, you have software, you have processes. It's mechanization, but it leaves the most important factor out, which is?
So systematic, exactly as you say, is I have a process, I have an organization in which I am a systematic person. I am a person who likes things organized, and I'm good. Well, if you go on vacation and you have everything already planned out, you're a systematic person. But it doesn't mean that you think in systems.
Mm-hmm. So what the hell is a system?
A system is, let me start the other way around, if you don't mind.
Yep.
For a million different reasons, many of which we've touched in this very interesting conversation that we've had so far, the type of work that we're doing, remember I'm interested in project management, is becoming more and more complex. For many different contextual reasons, but also for reasons that relate to our deliverables. The objectives that we have are getting bigger and bigger. So the way in which we run our projects needs to take this additional complexity in consideration. When the ancient Romans built the Colosseum, they just said, make a big ass wall, it's going to hold. Yeah, you can't do that today. Today you've got to do it just right so that it holds just the right amount. So you have a much more complex way of organizing things. And maybe less beautiful too, but that's a different story. If you roll this film forward, what happens is what we have today. We have extreme complexity in a context in which we're bringing in huge diversity, by the way, also because we don't have enough people. So we bring in huge diversity. Now we need to manage that diversity. So we have complexity at different levels. Complexity of level of objectives, level of change of those objectives, level of growth, dynamic growth of the industry in which we are, internal diversity in the teams that we are collaborating with. So the complexity is growing hugely. AI can help, for sure, but the project management tools that we've been using so far are just not sufficient anymore. So what happened since the 50s, we brought in iterative and incremental design, then spiral development, then
waterfall,
the various
rolling
agile, rolling wave. Then finally we had the agile. But all that is decoration. It's beautiful. It's very interesting and extremely important.
By the way, all those are iterations of the same thing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Just
and I'm
different
sure
words.
that you discussed it with Roy. I'm looking forward very much to listening to it. But however, we're reaching the limit also of that. So the question is, how can we create, what tools can we use, and I'm coming to systems, what tools can we use to manage higher layers of complexity?
You know what I find amazing about what you're saying is I agree with everything you're saying, but you're missing for me the key ingredient, and it kind of goes back to the question that Nelly asked about the dead internet, is For me, what makes system thinking interesting versus systematic is this classical cold management approach. This world of success and quality revolves around managing things with things, almost an AI approach. And what makes systems dynamic are partly conditions, things, the environment, but the number one factor we haven't mentioned, and that is the human factor, which makes systems exponentially more difficult to understand and manage, is the psychology of individuals and the psychology of individuals in groups.
So systems exist also without people. I mean, take whatever, the rainforest. It's a system.
Yeah. But it's a biological system, so it's alive.
It's alive.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
what I'm talking about.
That's probably the key point.
I'll change my concept of saying it has to be a human, but I'm talking about an organism. I'm talking about a dynamic organism which can be assessed from a biological or psychological or pseudo-psychological perspective.
Yeah.
But has a spirit and will of itself that has a dynamic impact on the things that we're doing.
Yeah, we call those complex adaptive systems. And you're completely right. The main focus, moving away from mechanistic systems that you correctly point out is not representing us, to complex adaptive systems, you're focusing on the relationship between the parts rather than on the parts themselves. And this is exactly the point, right?
Yeah.
So if you now start looking at whatever systems by observing the interrelation between the parts, what happens is that these change.